Hey, my name is Ailish. If you would like to see more birth stories, visit our YouTube channel, Journey of Parenting Portugal.
Hello, my name is Luci, and this is my birth story. So, I am half English, half Brazilian. I've been in Portugal 9 years now. Before I got pregnant, a coil in before, so I had to go to the doctor to get the coil out. I'm really glad it worked out that way because then he prescribed some blood tests and things. I started taking folic acid. I got to know the doctor. We had a really, really good experience throughout the pregnancy and then after with a really nice doctor. We were at Loule Health Centre. He asked me questions, would always check in with my husband. In general, we were very, very pleased with that service, and I know it's not the case for everyone. Loule Health Centre also put on a prenatal course. So we went along to that. It was 3 mornings a week. It was excellent. I was so happy that that was put on. From about my 5th month on, I'd started thinking about the birth and reading lots of books based on, so I would read in English on the UK and the US. And I'd kind of, it was my first contact with what goes on at birth and like the practices that are applied. So I started looking up kind of what goes on in Portugal, and I saw that quite a lot of the things that they do as standard are considered obstetric violence. So that was getting me quite worried. And I was talking to my husband about it, and he was saying, "Oh, you're not going to cause a fuss in the hospital." And I was kind of going, "No, but you're the one who has to cause a fuss in the hospital." And he didn't really, um, wasn't really involved in that whole research. So then when we went along to this course at the health centre, I think it's this one specific nurse, Nurse Grassa, who is very natural birth oriented. And from my research, I decided I wanted as natural a birth as possible. So when I went along to this course, the nurse was teaching all the things that I'd read about and more. And she really drilled it into the partners that it was their job to be the voice of the birthing mother and protect that family space and know what the mother wanted, be involved in the decision making, everything that I'd said and more. So that was amazing for my husband to hear that from the outside. And I think it really, really made a difference on the day because he really stepped up, really understood. Because the nurse would say things like, "This is standard practice in Portugal. Do not let them do this to you." And we were all, I think, yeah, we were all a bit taken aback, but in a positive way of being like, no, I do have the right to say what I want, and I do have control over my body, and a lot of these things aren't okay. So yeah, generally an amazing experience with the health centre. Um, the other best, well, it wasn't those weren't decisions. I just went along with what's available. But the best decision I made during pregnancy, probably in my whole life, was joining a pregnancy yoga class with Monica and Lolle. And it was just really nice. I think I couldn't have imagined how nice it was to be able to connect with other pregnant mums and kind of go through the journey together. Um, and Monica would do one physical class a week and then a Zoom call where we would just chat about what was coming up for us every single week. And just having that support was so good. And we talked through so much stuff, like quite deep emotional stuff that would like come up. And then towards the end, talking about our birth ideas, visualizing um, how we wanted the birth to go and also how we didn't want the birth to go so that we would be prepared for kind of anything and like accept the situation as it was progressing. And I think having all that insight was just amazing. And yeah, we still meet up every single week, me and the mums from the class, with Monica, the yoga teacher. And it is just amazing to have that support and would highly recommend pregnancy yoga to anyone who has access. I also took a hypnobirthing course online run by the Positive Birth Company. really walked you through the stages of birth, physically what goes on, emotionally what goes on, breathing practices. It comes with an app which I used. So I felt like that was really like rounded off the information that I hadn't got from the other places. It made me feel quite prepared. So that was all leading up to the birth. In the meantime, I had written a birth plan. I got it from the hospital website. I decided to go to Fado Public Health Service, partly because I didn't have the money to pay for a private one. Home birthing hadn't really appealed to me in any particular way, and also I couldn't afford it. So I went to the hospital website, got the birth plan kind of form, filled it out. That was again quite helpful because it makes you really think about what you do and don't want. And I talked it through with my husband, and he was quite pleased to kind of have that information and have that like bit of paper that he could kind of use to back up his standing up for me. So that was good. And then the day of the birth came. My contractions started in the night. I wasn't sure what they were. It kind of felt like period pain. I'd been uncomfortable for several nights before that, maybe 8 a.m. I started timing because it did feel like waves coming. So I got the app that came with the hypnobirthing course. It's called Freya. You have a button that you press when it starts and when it ends. And by about 9, they were 5 minutes apart. So I'd seen somewhere that the baby moves more when birth starts. And I hadn't actually felt her move for a while. And I would usually feel her like every day. So I woke my husband up and I said, I haven't felt the baby in a while. I might be in labour, I'm not sure. Shall we go to the hospital just to make sure everything's okay? I think if I am in labour, the contractions are 5 minutes apart. That is when they say to go in. He ran around the house like a headless chicken. I decided I wanted absolutely everything that we had access to. I wanted my pilates ball. I wanted 10 big bottles of water. Packed up the car, went to the hospital, got checked in straight away. I had the app, so every time I pressed the button that said I was having a contraction, my husband would know I was having a contraction. I wasn't in like a lot of pain or anything, but he'd look over and be like, oh, okay, if I'd stopped talking or anything. So I said I wasn't sure if I was having contractions. So they put on that monitor, they confirmed that I was. So that was a relief because if they weren't contractions, I was going to get a bit worried. And then I went into a room where they saw how dilated I was. They said I was 2-3 centimeters. So that was exciting. And my mucus plug came out then. They took me up to a room, kind of like the pre-birthing suite room, where there's 2 beds. That was about 11 a.m. So then having my contractions, had my laptop, so we were watching a film. My husband got to a point where he said he was bored, which I did not appreciate. Yeah, they brought me lunch. My husband had to leave at lunchtime, so he was gone. And then he came back. So it was like visiting hours because it was the public hospital. I didn't see any doctors or nurses or anyone in that time, mid-afternoon. Another lady came into the other bed. Every time a contraction came, she'd be like, oh, ouch, ouch, ouch. I just thought, oh, that's not what I need for my life right now. I'm in my little bubble. I'm like, I don't need to be reminded it's supposed to be really painful. Or they asked for my husband to leave so that they could check her. I heard one of the nurses say something like, oh, you're not even having contractions. What are you complaining about? Not very helpful. While that was going on, I just thought, oh, I don't need to listen to any of this. So I put my headphones in. I was sat in a chair, kind of leaning against the bed. I was like leaning forwards. And on the Freya app, there were some guided meditations. So I put those on, kind of really went into my own little bubble. And my husband was out the room, but he popped his head round the door just to make sure I was okay. And I was shaking with every contraction. I was whole body really, really shaking. It had really ramped up in that time. I was in a lot of pain, crying, just, yeah, it had completely changed the whole scenario. So he came in and said, I'm going to call the nurse. What's going on? He was really worried. This was about 5. So I hadn't actually seen any doctors from 11 till about that time. Doctor or nurse came in and she said, oh, you've got a gap on the bed. And I said, I don't think I can move. And she said, no, I have to check you because you're shaking really badly and that's making the baby shake. That's like, we need to check the baby's okay. So I stood up, and in that moment I felt this pop and just a massive release of pressure, and my waters broke. So that was, yeah, really good that I got up and that happened. So I got up on the bed. She said, oh, you're 6. I don't know, 6 or 7 centimeters. That's really come along. So we're going to walk over to the birthing suite now. So I walked over, kind of grabbing the wall, grabbing my husband. It was really, a lot more intense. So I walked over to the birthing suite. In that time, they asked if I wanted an epidural. So I had my birth plan. We had it printed out, like 2 or 3 copies. I don't think no one had asked for it. We hadn't given it to anyone. And so they asked if I wanted an epidural. I said no. And I think that's when they kind of gauged that I wanted a natural birth, and we're like, oh, okay, I'll leave you to it then. So then we went to the birthing suite, and they asked if I wanted to be on the bed, walking around on a Pilates ball. So I said I wanted the Pilates ball. Again, I was in a similar position, sitting on the ball, leaning against the bed. My husband was rubbing my back, and I had a monitor on. So that went on for quite a while. And I don't think, there wasn't anyone in the room, because they showed my husband how to monitor the baby's heartbeat. And if I stopped breathing properly, the heartbeat would rise. So he was really pleased to be monitoring that and telling me, oh no, breathe, let's breathe, and like in control of the whole situation. That was nice. That was like a good time. And then I started feeling like I wanted to push. So the next time the doctor came in, I think they were coming in, I had my eyes closed, so I couldn't say how often they would come in. But I think they were coming in every once in a while just to check, like visually, just pop their head round. And my husband said, oh, she wants to push. So they said, oh, okay, let's get up on the bed. And I said, I don't want to get up on the bed. And they said, no, you have to get up on the bed, but you can be on all fours if you like. So the bed kind of folded up. So they did that. And then they had the monitor on, but they said they couldn't monitor properly in that position. And they did say something about tearing more in that position, so it wasn't a good one, which isn't, I don't think that was in line with what I'd read. But so then they said, no, you can't be in that position. Lie down properly. So they put the bed out, laid me on my back, and I said, no, I absolutely do not want to be in this position. That's not comfortable at all. So they said, okay, go over onto your side. And I said, okay then. So I was over on my side, pushing, and I really wanted to close my knees. My body was just closing my knees. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't a conscious decision. And every time I pushed, I closed my knees. And the doctor said, no, you can't close your knees. So in the pre-birthing, and prenatal course, the nurse had explained and made us do it, where we closed our knees and our pelvic bones opened. So this memory came back to me, and I think that's how you're supposed to do. But the doctor was saying, you're going to squash the baby, you're going to squash the baby's head. And my husband went along with her and said, no, don't close your knees. So he was holding my knees open, and saying, you're going to squash the baby. So obviously I didn't want to squash the baby, even though I had this knowledge in the moment. So then I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and that went on for about an hour, up to a point where I was getting quite tired, and I kind of just looked, and it was quite painful. And I was looking at my husband, and I kind of said, I don't think she's coming today, let's go home. Not like, get this baby out. Like, no, we're good, we'll just do it another day. He said, I know you don't want like medical intervention, but you can ask for help if you want. Like, you're in pain, ask for help. So when the doctor came in, I said, I don't want an epidural, but is there anything you can do to help? So she said, okay, we'll have a look. And she examined me and said my cervix was getting bruised from the baby's head hitting it. And she said she could give me a local anaesthetic. And I said, okay. So then she did. Straight after, she said, okay, push. But I wasn't having a contraction, so it didn't make sense for me to push. And then a contraction came and I pushed, and she said, no, you have to push twice in a row to get the baby out. You're so close to the baby coming out. Like, my body was just doing its thing. Like, I wasn't, like, it was pushing when it wanted to and not pushing when it didn't want to. So that was confusing and a bit frustrating. All of a sudden, loads of people just came streaming in the room. It felt like there were about 15 people there, and I don't know who they were, and I don't know what they were doing. And I kind of looked at the doctor and went, "What's happening?" And looked at my husband and went, "What's happening?" And he was like, "I don't know." And he was asking the doctor what's happening. And they kind of streamed around the bed and then flipped me onto my back, held my arms and my legs. And then I see the doctor with these like massive pair of scissors. And I was like, "I do not want an episiotomy." And she goes, I think she was quite taken aback. And she said, "Before all these people, do you take responsibility for being incontinent for the rest of your life?" I knew that that's not true. And I knew from the research that that's just not the case. But in that moment, thought, I don't want to be arguing with this woman. I've got like more important things. I did say, but it's obstetric violence. And she said, "Do you think I come to work every day to harm people?" And I said, "No." But it is obstetric violence. And so I said, "Just do it." And she did. And then I didn't feel it because I'd had the local anaesthetic. And then I heard someone say, "Oh, pushing twice without a contraction." So I think I was just doing it. It was just happening. And then she said, "Do you want to catch the baby?" So yeah, I don't know how long. It felt like it was immediately afterwards. Yeah, then I caught Eva and she put her on me and she was kind of up here. And I said, "Wait for the cord to stop pulsing." Just wait for the cord. And they'd given my husband some scissors. Um, and the doctor said, "Oh, it's been ages already." And I said, "Oh, has it been 3 minutes?" And she says, "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah." So like, I had no idea if it was or it wasn't. But my husband cut the cord, and he was really, really pleased to be able to do that. And then yeah, so Eva was up here, and I was thinking, I want her to feed. I want her to feed. She needs to feed. She's born now. The next step is feeding. Can we get her on my boob? But the doctor was sewing me up. Um, and it felt like an eternity where she was sewing me up. And I was saying to my husband, "Can we get her to feed now? Can she move down?" My husband was going, "Just wait because the doctor's sewing you up." So the doctor finished. And then Eva was feeding. So that was really like nice that that happened straight away. And we did have the skin to skin immediately. So that's another thing I wanted. So I was pleased about that. I do think they weighed her within that time. I remember them taking her and you go, "No, no, no." But they said, "Oh, she's just here." And they weighed her there and then gave her straight back. So she was born at 9:47 at night. And at the public hospital, the partner is allowed to stay for 2 hours after the birth, no matter the time. They brought me some food, which was amazing, washed her, put her little clothes on. And then there was a point where I was on my own in the birthing suite. She was in her little bassinet, and I needed a wee because I'd said, "Call us if you need anything," and I didn't know how to call them. So I kind of waddled over to the door, and they said, "Don't get up." But I really needed a wee, so I got up and yeah, I went to the door and was kind of going, "Hello, anyone there?" And there was no one there. So then I weed in a bowl on the floor, which got blood everywhere, and like it was not ideal. And then a nurse came in and she kind of told me off for being on my feet. And I said, "I just really needed a wee." And she showed me the button. So there's a button that you press when you want to call them. I did not know this. And then they took me up to the room. So in the public hospital, you're there for 3 days in a room. So there's 3 beds, 3 new mums. And I was actually really, really pleased to be able to be in the hospital. First baby, first time, first. And it was really nice to have the other mums there. So when it came to changing her nappy for the first time, I kind of said to the mums, "Please, can you help me? I don't know what to do." So it was nice, yeah, to have that support. The second night, Eva did her first poo, so she hadn't really cried up until that point, kind of a little, yeah, but not really. That second night, she was screaming, and I was obviously panicking. So I went to the nurse's station. They helped get her the poo out. So it was really nice to be able to be in the hospital. Yeah, in the UK, I know they don't do that, so I felt lucky to have that support. And they also helped us bath her for the first time. I think that was the second or third day. Overall, I felt like it went well. It was how I envisioned it, but I took out health insurance immediately afterwards, thinking I'm not doing that again. Because I think next time I want to try a private hospital to see if they are a bit more aware of like the natural practices, and I would have liked it to all have been done a bit more respectfully. One last thing, my husband's main takeaway from the birth of our child was that I pooed a lot. So I guess that was a surprise for both of us, and yeah, something to consider.
Please like, subscribe and share so these videos reach more women.